Well, very good afternoon and welcome to Italy, which is now being deluged by snow, which is a pleasant change for the rain that's been falling for the last 36 hours or so. The temperature's just dropping down towards freezing. It can snow at 2 degrees, but luckily we're just about on that freezing mark, and that's made the conditions a whole lot better, a whole lot more wintry for the Tour de Ski final day. The women have completed, and it was a sensational victory for Therese Johaug of Norway. Always predicted she's the best climber every time she enters this race, and at last she has had a taste of victory. Credit to Jakobsen, started first today, lost a margin of 43 seconds to Therese Johaug. Jakobsen, without a doubt, producing her best ever season and is certainly a contender now for Olympic medals.
I think Jakobsen has to be, and you can see them both side by side there, 20 seconds separating them at the end, and Jakobsen just didn't quite have the strength on the final climb.
And if 1 and 2 isn't enough for the Norwegians, they got third as well. Heidi Weng in an unwelcome sprint for the line. Lautenmäki put a lot of pressure on Weng in the last 150 metres, but Weng proving herself the stronger and completing the clean sweep for the Norwegians. And we've said it before, but it's worth saying again, they have never won the Tour de Ski before, and they've certainly made amends for that today. And what will happen in the men's race? Well, it's due off in a couple of minutes' time, and Northug and Sundby will be trying to do a repeat. So just in time for the start of the men's final day of the Tour de Ski, the climb up the Alpe Chaumes that I'm sure you're all familiar with. Those of you who were with us throughout the women's race will know that Alex Harvey has withdrawn, and Mike will explain why in just a moment as we have a look at the start sheet. Mike, if you want to win this one, you've got to start within 2.5 minutes of the leaders, we feel. Here, Dahlon's a good climber, but I don't think he can close down that gap. Giorgio De Centa starting 26.450 behind. On previous years, he's been the quickest up the climb, but at 4.50 he's over 1.5 kilometres off the pace at the start of the race. And what about number 40, Andrew Musgrave? Another great run yesterday. I think probably his best ever classic race in the World Cup yesterday. Just missed out on World Cup points, but if he can gain 10 places today, I think that would go down as his career highlight so far. So they start, of course, in order of their positions, with the top going first and the same time margin that they've accrued. So a chasing start, or a Gundersen start as it's known as in Nordic combined, and it is Martin Jonsrud Sundby, the man who wears the red bib as the Tour leader, who sets off. Now, for many, Mike, the margin of 48 seconds over Petter Northug should be enough to ensure that he is victorious.
On paper, we could say yes, but I think that we're going to see Petter Northug take off from this start line like a rocket and try and close a lot of this time, if not all of this time, back. And he needs to do that to get in behind Sundby for the final 4 kilometres climb. Is it possible? I'm not sure.
Well, Northug's done it before. He's pushed hard on the flat to chase down Dario Cologna, and on every occasion it's backfired because there's been nothing left for the climb. Would it be wise to ski at the same speed as Sundby on the flat and then just hope that he can outski him on the climb?
And Northug is hardwired to take the titles. We saw that yesterday. He can dig and find something special when he really, really needs to. And I think his only strategy is to try and close that gap to give him a chance on the climb. Well, I agree, he'll have nothing left. Yeah, he started very, very fast indeed. This is full out from Petter Northug. The margin 48.5 seconds. Starting in third is Chris Jespersen, again from Norway, 1:26 behind. What a Tour de Ski they've had so far this year. They've got the 1 through 3 in the women's. They've got a chance of getting 1, 2, 3. I don't think it's going to happen though, Mike, and I think we're going to be in for a surprise. If you look at the results from previous years, the man who's going to finish on the podium and deny the Norwegians the clean sweep is Johannes Duer of Austria, who starts number 5 today, and he had a brilliant climb up the Alpe Chaumes last year of 30 minutes 19 seconds. He was a good 1 minute 40 quicker than Petter Northug. Well, interesting. Northug, I seem to remember, he was in second place for a lot of the race, and he did pull some time back from Leghorn at the time, but then he really burnt up.
Well, there is Duer just getting underway. No number 4 because Alex Harvey has withdrawn. Kalle Halvorsen, who was in second place in the Tour for so long, started 6. Chernozov of Russia starting 7. 2:09 off the pace of the leaders. And the defending champion still waiting to go. Alexander Legkov, 2:21 behind. Away he goes. What a monster task he has today to retain the title that he won 12 months ago.
What a fight Johannes Duer did, absolutely. He attacked even more strongly than Peder Northug off the line.
Hannes Dotzler, number 10, waiting to start. On the far side, we've got Sjörutte, the 4th of the Norwegians, underway. And then Didrik Tonseth is number 11. Number 12 is Gjerdalen. My goodness, they haven't held back with it being Olympic year, and you have to give them credit for that, Mike. But will it backfire? Will they come back from Sochi with nothing?
Well, it's incredible. Last year, I remember thinking, how can Peder Northug come back from the energy, the push, the mental push, as well as the physical push that he gave here in the Tour de Ski? But then, of course, he collected most of the bright medals at the World Championships. Look at the attack. He wants this gap closed down quickly. Oh, there's such wet, difficult conditions, Patrick. Somewhat 7-8 centimetres of new snow falling.
Yeah, and up the hill there's even more because it's been snowing since early doors at the top of the climb. Now, just to remind you of the profile, the first 5 kilometres are almost downhill. They will start the climb from a lower altitude than they are at the moment, but there's a little bit of climbing to do before they start that gradual descent, and that's where Peder Northug was just a few moments ago. And then they start the big climb, a climb of 410 metres. Now, that's an extra 100 metres on the Eiffel Tower. Can you believe it? I'm sure plenty of our viewers have walked up the Eiffel Tower. More will have taken the lift, but there will be a few who've walked. So you've got to do a 6-kilometre ski, 5-6-kilometre ski, and then you start to climb. It's a brutal course.
It's almost a cruel end to the 9 days of racing.
Prediction on the first split. 48 was the margin.
I think Northug will have closed some 9-10 seconds on Sundby.
Northug did as little work as possible in the 35k race, as many of our viewers have reminded us. Some outraged by the fact that he was happy just to sit in the pack and not take the lead.
Yeah, interesting the comment saying if you relate that to the Tour the Tour de France, you would never get anyone in a pack of cyclists just sitting easy at the back and only coming through at the very end. They'd sort them out.
Well, I think skiing is very different, and particularly in the fact that the slipstream effect is not the same. Now, you had some stats for on a bike. If you've got a peloton moving at what 40 kilometres per hour, the guy in second place gets
30% more efficient, and in third place 50% more efficient.
It is not the same on skis, partly because you don't go the same speed, but also because you don't go in a straight line, so the airstream is always disrupted. I don't know what the results are. I'm sure someone has done the research, and if we ever uncover it, we'll let you know. But it's not quite as significant as it is on a bike.
I'm very surprised, Patrick. Northug has lost, well, just 1.5 seconds. He's really tried to pull some time back. Again, Sundby so strong.
Well, this is Jespersen in your picture going through in third, 1:23, and Jespersen started 1:26, so he is going quicker than the race leaders. Without Alex Harvey in the race, Sundby has a margin of 30 seconds back to Johannes Duer of Austria. Well, welcome back. We're still in the early days of the men's finale of the Tour de Ski. The mass start, the wave about to go. One or two of them jumping the gun, but it doesn't matter. They're so far off the pace of the race leaders. And they've started, some 4 minutes down on Sundby. Tonseth of Norway just tracking Hannes Dotzler. Dotzler, I think, will be happy with the way things have gone, Mike. I've been quite impressed with the young Germans coming through. A few of them, Dotzler included, have got themselves qualified for the Olympic Games, so that's a lot of pressure off their shoulders.
It means a lot to athletes at this, I say at this part of the season. It's only 1 month until just over a month until the first race at the Olympic Games, and you really want to know at this stage so that you can start your planning and take the pressure off. It's an amazing feeling to have at least that knowledge under your belt that you're on the flight.
To start your planning, I mean, most people need a whole Olympic cycle to prepare for the Olympic Games. I guess you've just got to assume you're going to make it. If you were heading a national body, where would you put your selection? When would you make your selection? How early do you need it to ensure that firstly you get the people who are on form, and secondly that you give the good people enough time to prepare perfectly?
It's an interesting one, because if you select too many too soon, they can back off. The pressure isn't there, and they can back off. There's a broken pole.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of that today. That's about the fourth broken pole, and at what, £250 a pair? It's an expensive business if you have to pay for them.
I didn't see a coach nearby to give him a spare. And was that Rickardsson or Halvorsen?
I thought for a moment that was Northug in the background, but it's one of the Norwegian coaches, no doubt trying to press the snow down to give the next two Norwegians an easy ride. And you'll probably see Sundby trying to place his skis in fresh tracks, because that's the way he's going to get glide that's a little better. But what he won't find is anyone whose skis go as direct a line as his.
He has, and I think for Sundby to have only become really proficient, really top class in skating in the last 2 years is quite exceptional. Changing that at the age of 26, 27.
How important do you think the fact that he's worked on his knee alignment? He looked very knock-kneed initially with that right knee, and that meant that the right ski was never on the flat surface, always skiing on the edge, which is obviously a lot slower. How much of his improvement do you put down to that one fact?
I think a huge factor is due to that. It's a difficult thing to change, the whole alignment, I suppose, and it has to come from the hips and the core to make big changes like that. Northug, he's just thrown his glasses off, and a worried look behind him.
Yeah, because he's already lost time, and a huge amount of time, to Chris Jespersen, who started almost 40 seconds behind. Jespersen has gained a lot of time, and I think he needs to, because Jespersen is going to be under pressure from Johannes Duer at some stage. Jespersen a little bit of an unknown quantity, Mike, because he didn't do this climb last year. And I don't have any record of him doing the climb before.
There's Northug getting rid of those glasses, just throwing them at the side of the track. Jespersen has a chance. If we look at the progression he's made there in 4 kilometres, he's taken a huge amount of time out of Sundby. Can he close that gap down? Northug 55 seconds behind at 4 kilometres. Well, Jespersen, he was looking far more relaxed on his skis than Petter Northug, who looked tense. He wasn't letting the skis do the work. He was putting a lot of force through the poles and the skis, and just pressing deeply into this wet, mushy snow. Duer. Jespersen's got the gap down to 109, and it was 126 when he started.
Chanusov going through in 2:12, Legkov 2:24. Chanusov started 2:09, Legkov started 2:21, so no gains by Alexander Legkov. I wonder if this is going to be too big a task for him. 30 minutes 56 seconds, his time on the climb last year. And I think one of the most amazing facts, Mike, is that the men last year taking roughly 31 minutes the quickest. The average was certainly around 33. Therese Johaug again only just over 34 minutes, and you've got to include the flat section in that as well. So I wouldn't mind betting that on the climb itself, Therese Johaug is only fractionally slower than the top men.
She is brilliant. She took what from most of the rest of the best. Of course, Weng and Jakobsen stayed. Well, Weng was over a minute behind Johaug's actual time, and Jakobsen 1 minute 4 seconds. The rest were well over 2 minutes.
Well, this is one race where you hope your Christmas diet has been working well, because the lighter you are, the easier the climb is. Hirdalen in 11th place at the moment, having started 12th, and he's 3:02. He started 3:08, so a 6-second gain by Hirdalen. Duer, we need to keep an eye on Duer as well. but he hasn't made any advances yet. But it is the climb that he's good at, and he's had an extraordinary tour. He was nowhere to be seen for the first 4 stages, and then when we went to Cortina, he produced a blistering run. Nervous times before the start of the final stage of the Tour de Ski. The Germans hoping that Hannes Dotzler can do something exceptional and get himself, I guess, realistically in the top 5. Petter Northug desperate to get his first ever win. He's been so close so many times. 3 times Northug has finished in 2nd place. Last year wasn't quite as easy as that. Pushed down, he suffered on the climb big time as Legkoff came through to take the victory. The Swiss, without Dario Colonia around, relying on Tony Livers. And the Norwegians can hardly believe their luck. Sundby, Northug and Jespersen, all in the top 3. Sundby admitting that he's not had a lot of sleep in the last 3 nights. He's never been so nervous before a series of races, and that is because he is the man being chased by everyone else. Today the tactics seem to be going his way. 57.8 his margin now, having started at 48.5, so a gain of some 9 seconds for Sundby on the flat section. It's impressive, but it's not so impressive that you need to get concerned that he's burnt out before the climb starts, which it does right now. That left-hand turn past the car park below the Alpine lift, and now Sundby has some 15-16 minutes of agony as he tries to claim the Tour de Ski title. Will the margins change now? He's taking it steady, still skiing very steady. We saw him on the 35-kilometre race, Mike. I think he did skate 2 for 99% of the distance. Today it will all be about skate 1, and hopefully we'll get a look at the techniques. Jespersen has caught Northug, and the 2 Norwegians will now start together. You can see Northug's style, how different it is, Mike, and I'm guessing that he's using the upper body a good 5% more than the rest.
Well, I think he has led and brought into cross-country skiing, especially in the sprint races, so much force through his upper body. I think you're right, he uses those shoulders, those arms, much more than most. But I'm amazed he's lost 40 seconds already, or that Jespersen has caught him by 40 seconds.
Well, maybe Jespersen's pushing hard and Northug learning from lessons of previous years where he's burned himself out before the climb has started. They've started to climb at a fairly respectable pace. 58 seconds the margin. Jespersen has also caught a massive amount. He's caught 30 seconds already on Martin Jonsrud Sundby, and maybe he has his eye on the trophy, whereas Northug doesn't.
I'm finding it surprising. Northug suffered on this climb last year. Is Sundby beginning to suffer? We haven't seen much weakness shown whatsoever in his skating technique, certainly not in the 35-kilometre trial.
Well, it's a shame we haven't got a mic around his collar just to pick up the breathing rate, but you can see from the facial expression that he is already near maximum. This is the easy part of the climb. The blue slope. Wait until it goes black.
That gap is only 58 seconds. I thought we'd see Jespersen by now, but not in sight yet. I think that's an indication of how steep this, even though it's the bottom part of the hill, how steep it is.
Well, there is Johannes Duer, and he's coming into his own now. He's taken Chernozov of Russia with him. Alexander Legkoff, is Legkoff in that group as well? I think he is. I think he's down in 4th place. Kalle Halvarsson is there for Sweden. A podium still possible for the Swedes if he can pick up his rate. But we might find that Sjöruta is the man who comes through to make it a 1, 2, 3, 4 for the Norwegians.
For me, Ilya Chernusov is looking the most relaxed in that group, just using Duer to drag him forward.
That's 2nd and 3rd, as I'm sure you're aware.
There's the distance, so that's 56 seconds now. Haven't seen Sundby look back yet, not showing any fear at the moment.
Well, Mike, prior to today, we'd already had 46 retirements from the Tour de Ski. How do you feel that with Alex Harvey and a few others pulling out today, we have over 50% of the field that are not making it to the final stage?
I think obviously the Olympics are playing a huge part of that in 4 or 5 weeks' time, but the coaches, the athletes have planned this. They've planned to start the Tour, to take it as many days as they wish. Sprinters, we are definitely always going to lose after the 3rd or the 4th day. As soon as the sprints are over, they can't handle this distance.
They shouldn't handle it.
They can handle it. They could do it, but they're not going to be anywhere near the lead. And for many of them.
Well, but isn't the point that if the sprinters do a race like this, it's going to take them 2-3 weeks to recover at least, because it's just what their muscles aren't built for?
No, I agree, and not ideal in terms of planning or preparation for the Olympics for sure. But there again, Northug, one of the best sprinters. There are some that have the fast twitch as well as the endurance in their muscles.
From 58 seconds to 1:01, so Sundby's doing a good job in the early stages of the climb. 7.1 kilometres completed. They've only got 1.9 to go. It sounds easy, but when you look up the hill, you understand what the problem is. This is the fight for the minor places. 1, 2 and 3 are taken at the moment, but this group working very well together. Everyone happy to see Duer of Austria do the donkey work up the front. The Russians with Chernesov and Legkov are there. Rutte of Norway, Kalle Halvorsen of Sweden starting to suffer now. He is the biggest man in that group, and there's a remarkable correlation between weight and success when it comes to the Alpe d'Huez, and it's inverse. 183 the pulse rate for Chernesov, so still well within his limits. Now Duer is starting to accelerate, and this perhaps is where we're going to see something spectacular from the young Austrian. He was good at junior level, Mike. I know we were a bit surprised when he took the Cortina leg by storm. He produced the fastest run on the Cortina 35k. But as I say, he was sort of top 5 at junior level.
He was, yes. He had a number of good results at junior level, but we haven't really seen him at this kind of level. Certainly not over the last couple of years. He really has come to form. I think he was 54th 2 years ago at the end of the Tour de Ski. So finding his strength, finding his endurance. This is where it begins to really hurt 20 minutes in.
Yeah, if you look at the ski and see how much glide he manages to get on each stride, he's certainly doing a little bit better than we saw from the leading women about an hour and a half ago. And Sundby keeping some form of semblance, but there's much more movement in the upper body. Jespersen, in fact that's not Jespersen, that's Herdalen, who's another very good climber. He's gained a few places already, and just looking further back, is that one of the Germans? I think it's Hannes Dotzler, actually, number 10, who's dropping back down the order as Herdalen and Tonseth come through. He's a good fighter, Mike, and he's certainly not a small man.
No, Herdalen, he set a good time in the 35 kilometre from Cortina over to Dobiaco.
I remember his first attempt at the Tour de Ski. He was tipped for not necessarily for victory, but he was tipped for a top 3, largely because outside his house he has a monster hill just like the Alpe d'Huez. But I think by the time he got to the bottom of it, he was a spent force.
This is hurting. A lot more rotation in Petter Northug's shoulders and head than there is in Jespersen. So Jespersen trying to keep the balance through the hips, not too much rotation through the head and shoulders, but almost impossible not to in this steep climb.
I think the same laws apply as to skiing on a normal course. You have to keep the hips in front of the heels, and you want the shoulders just slightly in front of the hips. As soon as the body weight goes back, you're relying more and more on the upper body, and the legs are much stronger than the arms, even if they're tired. Yeah, he's still looking quite relaxed. The breathing rate is up, and the phlegm is starting to gather on the beard, but the speed is still good, and he dances his way round the first of many corners. Northug suffering and probably thinking of last year and the year before and the year before, where he was so close but missing out on every single occasion. 3 times, remember, Northug has been the runner-up in the Tour de Ski. I think now he's fighting for a top 3.
All that muscle mass on Northug, it helps him in the sprint races, but that is what, 81, 82 kilograms. It's not helping him up this climb.
What do you think's going through Sundby's mind at the moment, apart from that little glance down to see that there's still some space between himself and the chasers?
I think what he'll be screaming in his mind is just keep the form, don't think, keep the push, keep at this level that I can just about cope with.
Well, here's the man that I thought might split the Norwegians on the podium, and Duair has pulled away from that chasing group. Nice short skis on today, that will help. He's still using remarkably long poles.
And on this section, this is where Per Northug was almost coming to a standstill, so I wonder if Northug could be caught. Wouldn't seem likely.
Well, let's get the last split. We'll get another split in just a couple of minutes' time at 8.1 with 900 metres still to go. Over half of the climbing is now complete. Another 8 minutes or so for Sundby before he can claim the Tour de Ski title for 2014. 23:30 on the clock at the moment. The fastest climb last year was Johannes Duair. I think it was Johannes Duair in 30:19. And of course, in fact, he was second fastest. Even Babikoff of Canada was 30:12. So those two were remarkably quick. And Babikoff today starting number 21. So we should try and track him as he works his way through the field.
Babikoff, absolutely right. He's gone from 21 to 18th. He's now 4:42 behind in total time.
Jespersen, a 30-year-old, and I know in the past I've heard people say that he's come late to World Cup skiing, but don't forget he was a gold medalist at Junior World Championship level way back in 2003. I think he won the 30-kilometre freestyle race in the Junior World Championships. I don't think he's going to win today, but second place would be remarkably good.
He's such a tall figure as well as Jespersen. He's just keeping his composure, keeping his head up as well.
Is it Northug who's going to be involved in a sprint for the finish line? Because Duair is absolutely flying up the hill. We'll get an update on the margins in just a moment. Northug has watched Jespersen disappear. He's now 21 seconds behind, but the key figure is the distance between Northug and Duair, who's in fourth place at the moment. 900 metres remaining. A little bit of herringbone skate. 26, 27, 28 seconds between third and fourth. Almost 40 seconds. Let's say 36. The margin between Austria and Norway. Can they break the deadlock that the Norwegians have had on the Tour de Ski so far this year? Number 9 is Sjur Rotte, and Rotte is doing very well. He started 2:40 off the pace at the start of today. He was 40 seconds down on Duair, and now he finds himself just, 21 seconds, the margin between fourth and fifth. So there's a chance that Rotte could get up into the top three if he can keep that sort of pace going. Legkov of Russia still 2:31 behind. He started 2:21 behind, so it's going the wrong way for the defending champion. And I don't think this year's climb is quite as comfortable as last year's.
He's having to lift both feet very high, Patrick. The bindings set quite far back on his skis, but lifting his heels so high into the air, and that is a lot of energy up this 4-kilometre climb.
Well, that's a very interesting fact. How many of them do you think have brought the bindings forward a fraction for this race?
Well, the skis maybe do slide more easily when the bindings are a little further back, but you really don't want to be lifting your feet too high. Of course, fatigue coming into everybody's technique at the moment.
Look how accurately Sundby recovers the ski. The ski tip's just millimetres above the snow. Not close enough to catch, but not too high to waste energy. And Sundby with, well, it says a kilometre on there from the last marker. And it could possibly be the hardest kilometre that Sundby has ever done. And he will know that Jespersen is putting pressure on. And they may have heard that Sjur Rotte is starting to make a drive for the top positions. Northug is the one who's suffering in the Norwegian team at the moment. Don't forget we had a sprint for third in the women's race between Heidi Weng and Latinmäki of Finland. A race won on that occasion by the youngster Heidi Weng.
Patrick, further back down the hill, Giorgio De Centa started 26th. He's up into 18th, bordering on 17th. Musgrave, great news for the British team, and Andrew Musgrave, he's gone from 40th up to 32nd.
Already into 32nd, and if Musgrave can get another 5 seconds, he'll go ahead of Livers of Switzerland. Johansson is just a few seconds in front of him, so a chance for more World Cup points for Andrew Musgrave of Great Britain, who's had a sensational tour, definitely his best ever tour, but I think it sets him up well for the Olympic Games, Mike. I just hope, as we watch Duer of Austria starting to get closer and closer to Petter Northug. Oh my goodness, he's getting desperately close. He's flying up the hill.
I think that's Northug going to be passed again very soon. The momentum there from Duer, from Austria, is just incredible. Probably setting the fastest time. Yeah,
Northug's getting slower and slower. There's not long to go, just 3 minutes or so of climbing for Petter Northug. Duer still looks comfortable. It really was a fantastic ski from Cortina to Dobiaco, Mike.
Oh, that's strong athlete, and another strong athlete. The composure, I think, that Sundby is showing us, and the strength of his body and the skating technique is quite amazing.
Chris Jespersen looks very fluent. For me, he looks the best skier of the top 5, and I really like the rhythm that he's been able to set all the way up the climb, going through 8.5 now, and the margin was just trying to remember what it was at 8.1, Mike, if you could bring that up. Jespersen 53 seconds behind at the moment. He's done very well, considering he started 1:26 behind.
It was at the last check 59, it's now 53,
but I don't think he's got enough snow, enough distance between himself and the top of the climb. Northug still in third, but it's looking harder and harder. And here comes Johannes Duer of Austria, who drives past Northug, and he puts in a concerted effort to make sure that he makes the break. But Northug suddenly finds something special. I'm not sure how long this effort from Northug is going to last, but he would love to finish in third and complete the clean sweep.
Well, Northug, the brain is telling the muscles, screaming in the muscles, stay with this man. And if anybody can stay with the athlete ahead, it's Petter Northug.
We've seen him do it before, Mike, and it lasts for 50 to 100 metres before your breathing rate and the lactate levels get the better of you. That's... well, I think, is that Sundby? It looks like Sundby, so it must be Sundby's family. They're all starting their celebrations. Not too early, I would say, because Sundby has made no mistakes so far. Still 50 seconds clear. He started 48 clear of Petter Northug, who's been blown away once again. Northug said very modestly yesterday he was the laughing stock of the Alpe Mies, but that's absolute nonsense. He's still a phenomenal athlete when it comes to this sort of climb, but he's just not built for this sort of ascent.
He's not, but I'm surprised he hasn't put an awful lot of training in on hill climbs, or maybe he has. I've heard he was going to, but some people can climb, some just simply can't.
Yeah, there's no doubt that has to be Sundby's family. Apologies for not having come across them before, but I think if you put a beard on the dad, he'd look identical to the son.
Skur Rothe has moved up from 9th to 5th. He's only 2:08 behind at the moment. Legkov struggling in 6th position.
Less than 500 metres to go for Martin Jonsrud Sundby, man who lives in Oslo. He's 29 years old, so he's coming to the prime. He is already the overall World Cup leader, and he's going to have a huge lead at the end of today because he picks up 400 World Cup points. The normal allocation multiplied by 4 at the end of the tour. And that's partly because all the stage wins only win you 50 points as opposed to 100.
Northug, Patrick, 4th last year, and it's looking very much like he's going to place 4th again this year.
Second fastest yesterday for Sundby in the classic. Petter Northug produced the fastest time, but maybe all that effort that Petter Northug put in has cost him slightly when it comes to the final day. Only 2 legs has Sundby been out of the top 3. He got 3rd in both of the sprints in Oberhof and Lenzerheide, 6th in the prologue, only a fraction of a second outside the podiums there. So it's been consistency that has brought Sundby to this position, just moments away from claiming the Tour de Ski title. 50 metres to go, 32.34 on the clock. It's not the quickest ascent of the Alpe d'Huez we've ever seen. One proud family there. There will be massive celebrations in their camp tonight, and so there should be. Martin Jonsrud Sundby is the 2014 Tour de Ski champion, and the Norwegians have now claimed 2 titles in a day.
What a performance, to keep the mindset, to keep the focus. And Sundby, he said he wanted gold at the Olympics. Can he still do that after this performance, the way he's come into this season? I think he can.
Chris Jespersen, well, we're going to get a little bit of showboating here, and well done to him. It makes no difference to the position, but he's just making a point that he's still fresh as a daisy at the top of the mountain. Norway 1 and 2, and Jespersen goes from 3rd into 2nd. The highlight of his tour, well, again, consistency, but he was 3rd in the classic race yesterday, which put him in this position to challenge for a top 2 fight. And Johannes Duer, who we predicted from his performance last year, where he recorded a time of 30.19 on the Alpe d'Huez, it looked as though he could do the same, and he's done exactly that. Mike, if he hadn't lost so much ground in the first 3 days, he could have been a contender for the title.
Oh, so much so, and 105 behind. He started 2 minutes behind, almost a minute pulled back.
I think that's Austria's first podium in the Tour de Ski, going back over the 8 years that it's run. Sundby is a new champion. Legkoff last year, Colonia before that, Lucas Bauer, Toby Angerer, all very distinguished names in the world of cross-country skiing, and Martin Jonsrud Sundby is as good as any of them, and I wonder whether he's going to be able to double up next year. Petter Northug, again, disappointment on the final day. An agonising ascent.
Totally agonising, nearly being caught by his teammate Skur Rota.
Yeah, Rota, I think, could well produce the fastest time of the day. 1:55 he ends up behind. He started 2:40 behind. So Skur Rota has had a flyer, but then again, so has Jespersen. Well, it was worth it.
What a performance from Sundby. And the Russians, well, it was all about Legkoff last year, but not this time around.
Yeah, hats off, though, to the defending champion, Alexander Legkoff, 17th in the prologue. Maybe the writing was on the wall on the very first day in Oberhof. He missed out on any points in the second sprint, and that was absolutely crucial for Legkoff. And also very slow in yesterday's classic, down in 18th position. I think that really sealed his fate. And another good run from Hirdalen, who comes in 7th, having started 12th. He was 3:08 behind. He's only 2:45, so a quick climb, but Rota still the fastest ascent of the day. The 50 World Cup points will be going his way. Schörner's off in 8th.
And 5 Norwegians in the first 7. They really have got the skis, the backup, the form, the technique in classic and in freestyle.
A shame for Kalle Halvorsen. He's been outstanding all the way through the tour. We saw Halvorsen on very good form. He won the sprint in Oberhof in dreadful conditions, and it's just been a steady slide down the order since then. But Halvorsen in the top 10. Tonseth making it, 5 Norwegians in the top 10. Outrageous. Yaks of the Czech Republic in 11th, 3:24. Just looking where he started. He started 3:29, so that's a very good run. He's outskied Sundby on the day.
Further down the track, Jacenta still moving forward, and Musgrave for Great Britain. It's a brilliant performance. He's in 29th at the moment, just 1 second to move up 1 place.
Well, I hope we stay long enough to see Andrew Musgrave come across the line. It would certainly do him justice after an absolutely outstanding performance. Number 21, that's Ivan Babikov, who was the quickest climber of the hill last year. 4:03 his margin. He started 4:38, although I'm not sure that Babikov wouldn't have started in the wave start, Mike.
No, I don't think he was involved in the wave.
So he's gained 30 seconds on the race leader Sunbi, but still only manages to go from 21 into 16. And Giorgio De Centa in the top 20 yet again at the age of... First 24 already across the line at the top of the Alpe Chaumes, the hardest race of the season for all the cross-country skiers. Hoffman in 25th position. He's had a really good run, Noah Hoffman, and actually over the last 3 or 4 days he's impressed us no end, and I think he joins the ranks of the best. Is this Andrew Musgrave coming across the line in 27th position? He started in 42nd today, and Musgrave once again showing his potential. 6:04 the margin. It may sound a lot, but when you compare it with last year when he was 13 minutes off the pace of the leaders, my goodness, he's getting closer and closer and closer to the world's best, and we look forward to seeing what he can do in Sochi and the Olympic Games. I think the sprint is where he has his best chance of getting into the top 10.
That's right, and last year it was 52nd position, and what a huge improvement to take that up to 27th for Musgrave. Brilliant.
Yeah. Andrew Young is the other of the British competitors. He withdrew actually after stage 4 and deciding to rest for later in the season. And Posey Musgrave, Andrew's sister, doing the same. Well, there are many events that the Norwegians don't take seriously, but they have ignored the training for the Olympic Games, and they've come to Europe for the New Year period and the Tour de Ski, and they have absolutely swept the board. Apart from this man, Johannes Duer of Austria, who has claimed a surprise 3rd place. He was outside the top 20 with just 3 stages of the Tour to go. He is a climber and a half. Sunbi in the middle of your picture, the new champion. He takes over from Alexander Lenkov. And there you see the times, 32:49. Jespersen closing the gap significantly. He was 1:26 behind, so 52nd gain by Jespersen on Sunbi with this effort. 400 World Cup points to Sunbi, of course. I think 2nd place, do they pick up 300?
350, I think it is.
In fact, it should be 4 times 80. 320. 320. There you see Musgrave, 27th position. A wonderful gain from him today. And still they come across the line. He's taken some big scalps over the last 9 days, Mike, Andrew Musgrave. How do you think that's going to work for his confidence as we have another look at the top 3?
I think it'll be a really good build-up, and when you can place in the top 30 against the world's best, then you really are in that top bracket, and it will release confidence in all his performances in the future. I am so sure of that.
And how long before you go and try and persuade him to pick up a rifle?
Maybe one day he will. He'd certainly be a very good biathlete as well.
Chris Jespersen, 2nd place. Great stuff, Jespersen. He's 30 years old. He's less known than many of the top Norwegians. That's partly because Petter Northug has stolen all the headlines over the last 4 or 5 years. But tomorrow, the papers will be full of Martin Jonsrud Sundby and, of course, Therese Johaug. What a good couple there, mate.
And that's it. It's 8 years of the Tour de Ski, not a Norwegian taking the title. This time, they're flooding the titles.
Emotional times for the family, because they have worked just as hard, and they've probably committed even more than the athlete themselves. Well, thank goodness for a bit of snow, because we've had 3 days of rain and the snow has made all the difference. Well done to all those who've made the move, walked themselves up to the top of the Alpe d'Huez to spectate today. The crowd not quite as big as last year, but the atmosphere every bit as electric, and perhaps the best tour ski that we've ever seen, despite the absence of the likes of Cologna and Kowalczyk. We'll look forward to next year, but before then, of course, we have the Olympic Games to come. What a season it's going to be.